I have scored many great goals in my career. I have also achieved an incredible amount of personal goals. And for both my professional and personal goals, there have been great assists. When I went to Chelsea, the one person that assisted me the most was Jose Mourinho. He brought me to the club. He signed me in training. He was always there talking to me, putting his arms around me, basically letting me know where I am right now, that this is Chelsea, this is where, the big boys play.
Curls onto it.
Everything I did then, all throughout my career, I could hear Mourinho's voice in my head. Well, my relationship with the African players in the team was really good. It was fantastic. I think when I came in, obviously Drogba was there. He looked after me, gave me lots of advice.
Drogba. Oh, sensational!
Drogba really kind of helps me get things done.
Mikel.
Being a defensive player, for me, my job is to make sure that the team plays really well. Looking back at the game and seeing that every part of your job you did really well. And even if you don't assist someone scoring a goal, for me, that's an assist. That's the African asset for me.
Hello and welcome, guys. This is Radull Live, yes, every Saturday, 1 to 2 p.m. Now, before we get into today's discussion, people, a word from our partners at ABSA. It is 2021, and I know things are tough. It's tough for all of us, yeah? But if you open an ABSA One account, you have access to loans that you can repay in up to 7 years. You have flexible terms with an ABSA One account. So ABSA want to give you the assist you need to achieve your goals in 2021. So simply open an ABSA One account. Text the word ONE, ONE, 1 to 22268. Someone will call you back on a weekday, working hours, and give you all the details you need to open an ABSA One account and get that assist. Now, today there's a hot topic, simply because we all believe that our football is underrated. I think that's the word to use. So I have a team here today from the National Super League. I'm with the chairman of the governing council and the chairman of Nairobi Stima, Johnston Sakwa. Habari yako?
Salama sana.
And my friend Chahilu, Edwin Chahilu, patron Soy United. By the way, these guys, your CVs are very long, so we've summarized. Amaje.
Sure.
Chahilu,
Yes.
You're a very determined man. You called me 2,562 times, if I can exaggerate as a woman, because you have issues that are burning you. But before we get into the issues of the NSL, for those who don't know, first of all, shame on you. It is a second-tier league in Kenya, the league that feeds the Kenyan Premier League, promotion, demotion, promotion, relegation. But before we get into the issues of managing clubs in NSL and how you start them and what your challenges are, give me a bit of your background when it comes to football.
Thank you. Ricardo, football is in my blood. I started playing football myself when I was in primary school, all the way through to high school, and even at university level. As regards So United, back in my village, and then there was a team called Lumino FC, which had these youngsters, just villagers. And I would pass by that pitch and look at them playing with an old football. And it got to me that there's something that we can do, there's something unique that we can do within this community to bring about life in terms of football. So the first thing I recall is that I bought them their first football. And the excitement in the faces of those boys, some of them who now play for So United, was just amazing. After that, it again occurred to me that we can still help and support. So I decided to buy them their first football jersey. And they were going for a tournament. They won that tournament. That really inspired me. all the same, in the family, my late sister loved football a lot. My dad, all my brothers are just football enthusiasts. So it is like something that is within me. But the journey towards So United took shape.
I want to do your personal journey. We'll come to the journey towards So United.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Sakwa and just get your personal journey in football. We'll come to that.
All right, thank you very much, Caro. What I want to say is that football to me started many years ago. Of course, in college life, I've played football and went to national competition. One of the players we played in that tournament is Francis Xavier. Of course, we schooled together, but in terms of college, we schooled differently, but we met at that level. That's how my passion is. In terms of the village, yes, I've also played football for a small team in the village, featuring in a lower league in Kakamega County, which I still support to date, and so have a passion for that. And now I work for an organization which also has been sponsoring a team, so I happen to be the chairman of that team. How did I become a chair for that team? Being passionate about football and the endeavor to bring young people together. Okay, on the backdrop, I'm also a pastor, and basically I venture into mentoring young people. So football accorded me an opportunity to reach out to those young people in the football game, but also in terms of meeting them at their emotional or mental state to encourage them to pursue. Really, that's how I come into football. And I don't only just do it at the level of competitiveness, but I've been able to organize tournaments, mentorship programs for the young people down in the village. And I think this has been an encouragement to me. It gives motivation to bring out football and impact on life. So it's just about changing and impacting on people's lives. That's
Let
what
me
I
give
do.
a few shout outs and I'll
Yes.
ask you more questions
All
about
right.
your clubs. Moholondo Jiawa, in the heart of So United, listening to my patron from Kakamega. Xavier Gitau Masharia, the Radull Declaration of 2021 loading. Let's do this. Who is this who's locked in? Innocent is locked in. Raima Jaka inside. Honorable Ambrose Nyaris, following live from West Pokot County. Christopher Mutsotsi Shivutse. Hey, yawa. Hey. Ejinja Kona Kakamega is watching. Amimo Wodachieng, tuned in from Timbuktu. They like making jokes. Raima Jaka, greetings from Jamaica. Her Jamaica is here at Ruaka. She says, kindly say hi to Chahilu. Greetings from his cousin Beryl Onzere. Those are your fans. Zaki Manduve Matasi. I am locked. Bahati Innocent. I am locked in. Those are just some of the fans who've locked. If I don't send shout outs, as you can hear, most of them are lawyers. But, no, laugh at it. But Luyaland, whether we like it or not, is the heart of football in Kenya.
True.
As much as football is a countrywide thing, we can't deny the fact
We
that so many
can't.
superstars have come from that region. Chahilu, I cut you short as you were saying about the journey of starting So United. So take us through that. You've told us how there were young boys, you bought them a ball, you got them a jersey, and people underestimate what something small like that can do to somebody's soul. So how did you come now to be into in the National Super League?
In 2016, when these young boys had now shown that they have the self-belief, they were working hard, I decided, because they had won all the tournaments within that area. So we all agreed that it will be worth for them to participate in a league. So we registered them in the county league where they topped to get to the Division 2. Now at Division 2 level, we realized that the team can no longer have that local face alone. We started now looking at young talents within the Western region and also Nyanza region. So from there, we decided that we wanted our people in Soi to have one team. So that's when we decided, let's call this team So United. And it participated in the Division 2 for only 2 seasons and made it to the Division 1. And in Division 1, we also took only a season to get to the NSL last year. So it's been an interesting journey for not only for me, but also for the entire Soi family, because it has only taken us 5 years to get to the second time.
That's quick.
Yes.
That means you've been doing something right.
Yes. And we've also been making sure that we are tapping into not only the natural talents, but also away from football. We've tried to develop that holistic person. We are trying also to impart on these boys with even telling them that school is also important and all that. And some of them have really done well. We even have university-going students within our ranks, and that's quite encouraging. So that is a brief journey on how So United evolved into being today at the National Super League.
In fact, earlier, I think I cut you off when you were talking about your mentorship, because people underestimate the fact that to be a good footballer is not just to kick the ball. What are some of the qualities you focus on that make somebody a wholesome footballer? Because it's a difference between what we do in many parts of Africa and what happens in Europe, you know?
You're right. I mean, what we do, let me just say, summarize, we focus on 3 things. Number 1 is the playing bit. Number 2 is to impact on them on financial management, however small the amount of money is. When I joined the club, not just Nairobi Stima, but even others, people used to be paid stipends and they was being paid manually. You know, you just get guys at a place and you pay them. We have insisted as a club that every player will be paid through a SACCO organization now. And the reasons are simple, that they can be credit worthy. In the event that they leave Nairobi Stima and go out there, they can access credit. And I can tell you success stories about people who have gone out there and done their business through that. So we still emphasize on that as a very important key element. Initially, it was resisted, by the way, not just by the players, but also with the office bearers at that point, because they didn't see the reason why. But after several years, then that has happened. So that's one other angle. The other angle is about spirituality, that people observe a deity in their lives, and whatever religion you're talking about here, we want to emphasize a role in maintaining some kind of moral decency to give you value as a player. We are in a world where we interact with people in different ways, so those aspects are things we champion and we pursue. And over time, that has been seen to be an impact in those players. You can follow a trend and you can see these players that have been impacted on, their lives are different in terms of how they behave, how they carry themselves through. And this is not just at the Super League level. This is something we try to bring down even at the teams we sponsor. So when we go down to the village, we do programs. I have done interactions with the players in the village, not just raising money or giving them uniform or kits. We have also organized events on mentoring them to succeed.
Now, you're at Nairobi Stima, you have the luxury of having your players paid. My friend Chahilu here, So United, funding it must be a challenge.
Indeed, it is, and more severely now at this particular stage. But when we were at Division 2 and Division 1, it was easier because it was within the Western Region circuit. But as an individual, I wouldn't mince a word in saying that that has been the biggest class I've ever been to on financial management. It stretches you to a level that at times you can't sleep because you're thinking about how will these boys eat, you're thinking about all this stuff. However, we also try as much as we can at club level. Once in a while, you want the boys to understand you as a person, that they understand that if this person has, we share. When we lack, we know that it is genuinely not there. And from that, you get an understanding that these boys can even work. All they need to do, or all they tell you, is that provided we have food, we can play. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but we're also looking at different options. We are doing a lot of. We are looking around for sponsorships all over. We've knocked on doors, including for corporates, individuals, because we want these boys to have a better life. We want them to be motivated. Caro, in football, without motivation, you are as good as done, and that's quite a challenge. Just to tell somebody that, you know what, you are going to play for yourself. All I'm giving you is a platform. At times, it's very unrealistic, but we are trudging on, and we hope that the efforts that we are putting in soon will bear some fruit.
Just a few comments here. John Wayne says, I like this guy from the first time we met in Eldoret when his side played as Cusco FC at the Eldoret Showground. I like his humility. I think he's talking about you. Is he talking about you? He's not mentioned who is. John, there are two guests here.
I think he's talking about both
Edgar
of us.
Malala says, nice one, Chahilu Edwin. Watching from So United, that's Mwalimu Jungani Eric. We stand with So United. Samuel Gasha is a journalist. He says, locked. Say hi to Chahilu. He's doing a great job. Edgar Malala, yes, nice one. Wafula Mwanga says, nice one, Wakili Chahilu, well done. Now, you've used the word motivation, which is unfortunate for us that when we talk about sport in Africa and Kenya in particular, we use the word motivation, which is good. But for me, I go to work, I get paid, I pay my bills. I have a regular income. Us, unfortunately, we have to always use the term because our players just have to get by. But what we all want, people sitting up here, is for our players to just get regular income, so that it's not necessarily about motivation, but it's about getting your dues, getting what you worked for, getting what is in your contract. I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is one of the reasons you're here today. The fact that the National Super League has a sponsor, a title sponsor in Betika. I believe they give 15 million a season. Each club is supposed to get 750,000 shillings. I know for a fact Betika paid FKF that money in October, 29th of October. I have documentation. But you guys are yet to receive that money. What's going on? Do you know what's going on? Because the season has been going for the last almost 3 months.
Well, I can go fast. I mean, first of all, I want to appreciate Betika because I've been in the league fairly for a while now since that sponsorship started. And I would like to say that for last year, it was a job on our hands, I mean, for the clubs, because we did receive the 750,000 for the last season. We also had an additional 100,000 over the COVID period, and then we received some balls. So in terms of last year, we can say that progress was there, and it was very important, key to players. And just to go further and say, part of that money is what we saved as Nairobi Steamer before the sponsorship was stopped by the organization. So for us, from that time up to now, up to this month, the money we had, we saved it for the purpose of, the
sponsorship wasn't stopped.
Yeah, no, I'm saying,
you haven't received the money.
Correct. I'll get back there. I was just talking about the previous one. So we have used that money to carry ourselves through for this period.
Yes.
But where I stand right now, it is true, the money has not been received. However, I have information that part of the money has been released, part of the money. Why I'm saying this is because on my own part, I do also push to understand the events that are going on. Just to bring you to speed is that I, by virtue of my position or the position of the club in the league, I attended the AGM. Is a matter I've been pushing very consistently. So
as chairman of the league.
As the chairman of the league, I've been pushing because I have no other thing to do except to push. So it's a matter that I've been asking. This last week, actually yesterday or the day before yesterday, I don't know about the other clubs, but for me, we received communication about passing our club information for accounts for money to be paid. So for us, we don't receive the money cash, we receive by check. But it is true the money has not been dispensed from the time the season started.
And what reasons are you being given, Chahilu?
Firstly, we have a WhatsApp wall where even the president of the FKF is also on that platform. And the last communication that he did issue was that clubs be patient and that money was going to be remitted at the end of last month. For me, it's even more straining because during the COVID period, we were preparing for a playoff. I had the boys in camp for 6 months because I didn't want them traveling all over the country due to the risks. So I had to take care of those boys for those 6 months. And then go through a playoff. And then after the playoff, miraculously, the league kicked off. So when the league kicks off and you've expended most of your monies, including giving these players the promotion bonuses, which they did receive, we were a bit stretched as So United. But I was talking to our CEO yesterday, and I asked him whether they had received any monies. They told me the monies are yet to be released. However, as he says, we received an email asking us to also forward our account details. I think this was done to all clubs by the head of competitions at the FKF. So there's nothing clear on that. And you see, that's now the problem with this, with trying to make the players understand that, look, the federation is working on this, or the issues at the federation, or we don't know whether it's the sponsor himself.
The sponsor has paid. But Tika
Yeah.
sent me documentation.
Yes.
The money was paid in full on the 29th of October.
Yes.
Before the season started.
Yeah. So you now see the kind of situation some of these clubs find themselves in, and especially we being the small babies of the NSL, for example, and being a community club, it's very difficult.
Every shilling matters.
Yes, it's very, very difficult. And
I want to, sorry, FKF, this is a problem because you can't tell me 3 months into the league, 3 months of you sitting on this check, that you don't have bank details of your clubs in the NSL. I assume that is information that you should have when the season is starting, that these are the clubs, these are their bank details, these are the players they have on contract, these are, such information should already, because I see those as delaying tactics, 3 months in, you don't know who's in your league. You don't have details of who's in your league. What's going on at FKF for me? For me, that's nonsense. I'm sorry. They should have dispensed that money in November. And we all know what happens when a big check is released and doesn't go to its intended purpose. 3 months down the line, trust me, that money has been spent somewhere. And it's unfortunate because I spoke to the sponsor as well, who said, we just want the money to go where it's meant to go. Yeah, and you guys have to work with Nick. I do to an extent, because he's the president of the federation, but he needs to pay this money and he needs to pay it quickly because it's yours. You shouldn't be begging for it. Moving on a little bit, and this is in defense of Nick, based on information I know, that 750,000 is still not enough for a team to go through a season. So what else, you mentioned it a bit, I think in passing, Chahilu, but what else, what other plans do you have to try and bridge that gap? Because players deserve salaries, not tokens. You are doing your best. By the way, there's so many comments here praising the work you do in your area, and I applaud you for that. But the minute you have a club, there needs to be a plan on raising revenue. Apart, when you approach sponsors, what's the feedback they give you?
Okay.
Or should I call, they're called partners nowadays,
Yes.
because you get from each other,
Yes. For us at So United, we've, as I said before, we've made contracts with all and sundry, including even our local leaders. We've told them this is the situation. Even if the CDF alone, for example, Caro, would say that the money that we have for sports, we have a team in our area which is competing in a second-tier league. Let's put this money for their use. Or even let's give this team a bus for their transportation. That's somebody who's helped you. Again, our county governments need to also look at these community clubs. Can they adopt some of them? They're like in Kakamega, the last few seasons they've been helping out Kakamega Homeboys. Now we are the second tier team in Kakamega County. So we should also put a human face to this and say that this is what we can do. Now, partners...
Have you approached the Kakamega government?
We have. As I said, we've knocked on all doors. And I also want to appreciate the stadium manager at Buhungu for even at times waiving the charges for us to play there. It's not easy in one way or another because there's a budgetary cycle that has to go through. There must be all these bureaucracies which hinder us from accessing these funds. But again, when you talk of partners today, they want to associate themselves with a brand that is doing well. Now, if like us, we are still at position 16. We are the king of draws in this league. If you are at that level, and I'm trying to sell this product called So United, it also takes time. I've been to some of these companies and they've told me, look, this is something that must be considered by the board. What do you do as an individual? You have nothing to do. All the same, as a way of moving this issue or trying to resolve this issue, it's also important that clubs start to have some investment platforms. There are certain clubs, if given that grant on time, by now they'll have put it into a certain investment portfolio whereby they know by game this is what we are looking at. Okay? Another thing that we've done, Carol, which I think is a bit wrong, is that the money that is being put in this second tier, is it worth the talent in this league? That's a question that we need also to dwell on, even as we look at alternative means of sourcing for funds other than what Betika is offering. Because, like personally, I lost my former coach to Sofapaka, Mike Miruri. I lost my goalkeeping coach, John Wow, to Sofapaka. I lost Ambrose Funa to Sofapaka, Simon
Can't
Makaka.
compete, basically.
And recently, I'm also losing 2 players to Kakamega Homeboys. So when they come, you have no financial muscle. But the talent is there, and I think even Sako will agree with me, there's immense talent. Last year when you were participating in the Division 1 league, Caro, the talent that I saw, if I had the means to put up an academy, it would ideally be the best. Because talent, you cannot question the talent in this country. So perhaps there's need for some way of structures. But also, we talk of structures when, at the same time, we are looking at, some clubs are looking at, if this money comes, even certain clubs will not pay the players. Personally, I'm not even a signatory to the team account. I don't do that. And that's just one way we can also relook at it and say that, can we have partners who come to manage these clubs on our behalf? Can we agree to such things? And those are some of the innovations around this issue.
And I know in the past there are some partners who prefer to even pay players directly.
Yes.
Which is unfortunate because you should be able to trust the club you're partnering with. But you did touch basically on the value of the National Super League. What are your issues with the value of the National Super League?
I would just say that, yes, it is true that the Super League has got great value. But there are issues that must be done. I look at it from many dimensions, about 3 or so. Number one is when the federation is negotiating and giving value to the league. What are they basing that value on? Because I hear communication conversation that the league, the products that are being marketed is the Premier League, at that level. However, we are the ones that feed the Premier League. My understanding is that the league, the Super League, is so valuable because when people look for players, my friend here has just mentioned that
he's losing everybody.
Yeah, even me, my coach was
Premier
coaching
League,
Nairobi Steamer. We've already lost him to Postal Rangers as we speak right now. So it's true what he's saying. So for me, I think that the value of the league should not be underrated or underestimated. Basically because the players, when people are looking for them, they come at the lower league. It means there is value. And I look forward to a time when even a player in Premier League will not feel devalued by coming to play in the lower league, as it is elsewhere. It should be so valuable that the competition is so high. A player doesn't feel like he's going to die simply by being relegated to National Super League. It's an issue we need to look at. In terms of development, the way we carry ourselves, I would be very honest and say my analysis of the National Super League has also a gap in the people that manage the Super League itself. Look at the club management. We need to sell ourselves to would-be partners, as you have said, but there is also something the partners are looking for. I'll use my case as Nairobi Steamer, not because it was sponsored by a corporate before, but let's look at it in the context without, devaluing any other team in the National Super League. Let's imagine you call a meeting for the people that run National Super League in a meeting where you want to sell your idea to a sponsor or to a partner. Would it be a case that is worth listening to? My assessment and answer is that you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 10 people who can make a point and get value from would-be partners. So there is a gap. And that is why it's important then to develop the clubs and develop the leadership. It's very key because there's no way you're going to get sponsorship if you're not able to present your case that a sponsor can understand.
Were you, as the chairman of the National Super League, involved in any negotiations?
Yes, and in fact, I will tell you for a fact, the sponsorship coming for Nairobi Steamer has been done with consultation, but engagement in terms of the passion I have to sell an idea.
Not for Nairobi Steamer, for
Yes.
the Super League.
Yes.
Because one of the issues we discussed a few weeks ago with Chahilu is that based on the title sponsorship that the Kenyan Premier League has got,
Yes.
each team gets 8 million shillings.
Yes.
Likewise, for NSL, each team gets 750,000. That is a disparity of almost 7.something million,
7.2 million.
which is, it's a huge gap.
It is huge. Well, I would say you're right. We have not been involved in that negotiation. And it's something that we bring out, we have brought out, and we insist that is important because, as I said in some informal communication, I said, when you have leaders playing the ball for you, there could be a place they're not seeing that we can be able to bring it out ourselves. Like the value, I believe one of the key issues is that the undervaluation of the league is what results into little money coming to the league. If we are able to present issues like Chahilu is talking about here in terms of the value we have and we put it on the table, somebody else might see a point. But when we have other leagues, the gap being too high, where there's an imagination that Premier League is so high from NSL, then that is what the value that is presented, and therefore we get a raw deal. So moving forward, I think it's important to allow the clubs be able to talk about their value, the way they understand it to be, and that's why we are investing in it. In these cases, some of us put our own personal money in the clubs. It's because we believe in it. We believe in the league. So if we do believe, it's unfortunate, very unfair to undervalue that league. It's important that we give it the right value. That's what I would say.
I know I've interviewed the president, Nick Mwendwa, here once, and he basically has he's right and he's wrong in that he says there isn't a long line of partners waiting to offer sponsorship. So we take what we are offered, which unfortunately falls back on you guys, because he will say unless you make your clubs and your league attractive to a point where we can name our price. Because right now, unfortunately, with Kenyan football, the corporates name the price. They say, we want to give you this amount of money, when it should be the club saying, this is my worth. But we're in such a position that the corporates who want to sponsor you are so few that you take whatever is offered on the table. And that is basically what Nick said, which I can't fault him. He says, I take what offer comes to my table. And I'm not in a negotiating position because it's the only offer on the table. So it's a catch-22, which I think we need to just put our heads together and see how to tackle this. I want us to take a quick break. And then when we come back, I want us to go through some of the steps we can take to add value to ourselves, to our players, and to the league as a whole. And contributions from you guys who are watching as well. I'll read them in the comment section. And continue to share the link so more people can join into this conversation. For me, it's about finding solutions. Let's do that. So we'll see you in a short while. Don't go anywhere.
It's Owen, and he's got his hat-trick.
Throughout my career, I've had people encouraging me along the way, helping me to get things done.
And Owen shoots.
Whether it's from my parents, whether it's from different coaches, teachers at school. I think it was very beneficial that I had two older brothers. I always wanted to be as good as they were.
Oh, what a finish!
My father always treated me like a professional footballer. Even when he would talk to me, he said, I'm going to cook your steak tonight because you need to be strong for when you're a professional footballer. Those little subliminal messages, hence I thought I was a footballer probably before my time. My dad said right from the start that I was always going to be a centre forward. He said I just basically loitered around the goal.
What a pass! Michael Owen wins it!
I think if I had to name one player that's assisted me throughout my career, most of all, it would have to be Steven Gerrard.
Gerrard, here's Michael Owen.
From the age of 11, we were in the same Liverpool team together. Invariably, he would be the one doing the assists and I'd be the one finishing it off.
Gerrard, that's a brilliant ball! That's dazzling!
ABSA, the official African banking partner of the Premier League, is giving you the assist so you can get things done.
Welcome back. This is Radull Live, guys. I hope you're still there and still watching, still sharing. I'm waiting for your comments so that I can read them as well. Remember, guys, that if you want an assist to achieve your goals, and I should tell these to the clubs as well, you need to open an ABSA One account because they're offering flexible loans right now, guys. Repayment periods of up to 7 years. Just text the word one, 0NE, ONE, to 22268. 1 to 22268. Someone will call you back on Monday or Tuesday and give you information on how you can open an ABSA One account and how you can get a flexible loan so you can get that assist you need to achieve your goals in 2021. Now, Shahilu here said when we were starting the show, why can't ABSA sponsor us? Value! Value! You know what ABSA say? They actually go to social media. Nowadays, it's not just followers. They look, how many followers do you have? What interaction do you have? What reach do you have? How many people are going to hear you or read my advert when I place it on your platform and things like that? And it is something that Carol Radull, myself, I have worked on for years, actually almost a decade, in building social media presence. So they look at Radull Live, they look at Carol Radull on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and see what reach do you have. And that is what it is for many, many corporates. Let me read some comments, and then I want to ask you guys, whose responsibility is it to improve the value of the National Super League? Franco Uma here says, talking of money, I know you've answered this a bit. He says, what are some of the commercialization profit-making strategies the two seniors have employed in managing their teams? I think Chahilu did touch on that. How effective is transfer fees in funding their budgets? What are some of the challenges of commercialization that they face? I'll come back to that question. Princess Nelly, what exactly is the reason why those boys don't get paid? Is it lack of money or they just don't want to pay them? I think for some clubs it's a combination. Ahmed Gibson Sonny says, great work, Chahilu. Soy Niyetu. Black Rob, Chahilu, the sky is the limit. Keep going. Great job. Walter Machio, oh, my friend from Bungoma, he says, love the mentorship and financial management training part, so critical. Professor Marino Duor, okay, he says something long, I'm not sure if this is in Swahili or Luya, and then he says, Sisi Kamasoi. I gather he is a fan. Christopher Mutsotsi, amen, hapo kwa pasta. Sunday Timothy, Football Kenya Federation have stepped up this year. For the first time, Betika was sponsoring the National Super League. I think this is a step in the right direction. Sunday, I agree, but can the money then get to the players? By the way, it's the second season. The money was received in October. The teams are yet to receive it in February, and February is ending. That's our issue. And then the other issue, of course, is the value of the league, because you feel that the league should be valued higher than that. Whose responsibility is it to increase the value of the National Super League?
Well, I think that there's a role that as clubs we have to do. When you talk about we must create a brand, we must be able to create a brand of our clubs. And you have just rightly talked about social media and all that. There are also clubs that have not created a brand. They're there in the league, but they're not visible. And so value again there is belittled. So we have to do more. We have to have brand. Then we have to improve our management of our clubs that will present a picture that we are doing the right thing. It's very key. Those are things we can do as a brand. On the other side, we have clubs, whether individual, community, or corporate. There have been an investment in these clubs. That is a valuable way to look at the clubs. So that is the angle I'm talking about. However, the federation has a responsibility also to create value. Because even as they sell the league to would-be sponsors, what are they talking about, and is it the correct position? It's an issue I want to raise, and I've raised again, that the federation, from where they sit, from the president and the committee, they cannot say the value of the NSL without consulting us to understand the modality and how they are arriving at that value. So I still insist that the federation must value us correctly and also must put an input.
What do you think they're not doing? What are they not saying? What are they not seeing?
You see, from my interactions with the federation is that they consider the national team and the Premier League as the brands in football as it is right now. Meaning that then the NSL doesn't qualify to be in that class. And from where I sit, I think that's not a correct position. Because the players that go to the Premier League originate from the NSL. So as they negotiate contracts or partnership at that level, there must be a slot for negotiation for NSL, because you're getting a player from this level who has been refined at this level. So the value is already there. The NSL has recognized that value. So even making it easier for National League or Premier League to get players already made into value. So there's no way you can negotiate how much money for the Premier League and forget to mention the NSL. It's not possible, it's not right. So there must be, as you negotiate about the Premier League, there must be a way you also include the NSL at that point.
So would it then work better if this, or maybe this is what you are saying, sell them together?
Yes.
Sell them together, and then where you get 8.75 million for a club, you give Super League at least 2 million or something like
Precisely.
that. As opposed to 8 million to KPL clubs and 750,000 to NSL clubs.
Precisely.
Because it is sort of a unit.
Yes.
At the end of the day, do you guys have programs where you recruit fans? Because based on my tweet, on my comment section, I hope all these people come for Soy games, because fan bases is what corporate partners look for. They look for their customers. They're not charities. They're also looking for their customers.
Caro, again, the challenge has been this COVID period.
Yeah.
And fans have been restricted to come to those matches. But during Division 2 and Division 1, we used to pull those crowds, and they would even buy not even replicas, just T-shirts written So United and all that. But I want to highlight something that I believe is also important in terms of adding value. You look at the contractual obligations of some of these NSL clubs. Like, how do I give a player a contract and I tell the player that I'm going to pay you 20,000 shillings per month, when I know on my end it will be a big bargain, because if you are doing that for 30 players, that's about 600,000.
Every month.
And that's 1 month. So look at that vis-a-vis the 750,000. So those are the gaps. And we all we need to do is now look at how do we negotiate these packages. If we can make a comparison, and this is just a small comparison with the Tanzanian league, for example, the clubs dictate what is to be paid to them in terms of even rights, even simple rights like having a sponsor on your jersey and all that. But it is also the federation also has a hand in it. It helps those clubs in terms of we want our league to grow. So if you're not pumping in this, our league will not be growing. So even at NSL level, you would be surprised. And Carol, you can mark this. Come the end of this season, 60% of the players in the NSL will be featuring for KPL clubs. We have so much talent at grassroots level that if this talent is also well packaged, because we at Soy we've tried that. We have created these youngsters right from 2 to who they are today. Others right from secondary school to who they are today, and some still have brighter futures. So we need to look at that. How it's like what you've talked about, your intellectual property rights, for example. That is the brand behind you. Now, for us as clubs, our greatest asset is the players. Now, if that asset is not being well looked after, then the end product, even at national level, will produce very little local players. And you look at it, for the last 7 years, we've been churning out the same players featuring for the national team for close to 5 years.
In a country with so much talent.
Exactly. So we need to look at that. How do we invest in that resource, which is the player? Yeah.
There's some comments here I want to go through. Then I'll ask you about the transfer fees, whether you make any money for that. Walter Machio says, it's actually interesting for the Federation to ask for account details for clubs participating in their league. This is information they should be having, yes. John Wynn says, Edwin Chailu, Soy United, humble guy. Okay. Oh, this is the guy who was calling you humble, and you're denying it's you. You're humble. You're not Luo. They say a humble Luo is a pretender. But a humble Luo, okay. Felix Makachia says, how can one invest in Soy United, and is it information that has been made public? Then Franco Uma says, valid question. And when Felix Makachia is asking, he's based in the States, these guys of Kamtoyoyo, which means he's thinking something. So how can someone invest in So United if they wanted to?
Of course, we've modeled our club in a way that we are not only looking at just the players alone, Carol. We are looking at what other investment portfolios can we create so that we are self-independent. But you know, that takes a lot of a chunk of a huge investment for it to grow. But for Frank, given his contacts and everything, we can share our proposal. Sorry, for Felix. We can share our proposal and he looks at it and sees whether there is value in it and all that.
I think he's, sorry to cut you short, yes. I think he's also asking, because it's interesting you mentioned the Tanzanian League. The clubs that have grown in the Tanzanian League have actually come from big businessmen, Abramoviches, so to speak. The Simba, the Yanga, the Azams have been these big businessmen who've come in, they've built stadia, they've built home grounds, they've professionalized the clubs to a league, to a level where it's being run almost like a company. And then Tanzanians, their attitude is just so different from our Kenyans. We say we love football, we don't go and watch our games. Tanzanians watch their games. So it's easy for them to go and get corporate sponsors and name their price. If you don't have the fans in the stadium and you don't have eyeballs watching your game when it's live, the corporate, you will never be able to name your price for a corporate. So that is what Tanzania has got right. So as Makachia asks, I don't know if this was his question, but I think he's asking, not that he's a Sonko, he's just a normal guy who loves football and has a bit of spare change to put into the game. But I think he's thinking of that big businessman kind of entry into a club. Are you open? You see the way the clubs in Europe, they have the Middle Easterns, the Far Easterns, the Americans coming in to buy Manchester United, Liverpool, they're all owned by big businessmen. So that is, I don't know if that is something you've ever thought of.
We have, and we even through our alumni, that is my high school alumni, I've shared with those who are in the diaspora on them coming and buying shares in the club and taking part of that management. So all those options are open. They are open-ended, provided the interests of the players are well taken care of, and the person who's coming in also has a right in management. You know, that's also the big elephant in the room, that we cannot allow sponsors to manage us. That's quite a thing I've realized, that if it's Sako and then Sako can only give me the money I put in the club, Sako cannot ask for
I guess those are things you put in your terms and conditions.
Yes.
So that the majority shareholder is one of you people who keep having the heart of the club. You have that at heart. What are your thoughts about that investment?
Well, I think
individual big investors.
I think we should open up our structures to be able to accommodate, because that's the way to go. It's so risky, and I'll tell you that Nairobi's team right now has not been a corporate sponsored team since the league began, because after sponsorship was cut. So we have felt the brunt of what community clubs go through. And it's important that we think out of the box to allow people to come in and take stake where it's possible, to allow our structures now or to accommodate whatever support can come in. But it must be structural. So teams have to go, you know, COVID has brought in many things also, that people are thinking out of the box to think on what they can do to ensure that there's sustenance. And some of the things that have been discussed here is that we must open our structures to accommodate that. Another thing that I will say here is that the issue of declaration and confidentiality has been a problem. Because if people want to come and sponsor your club and they don't understand anything about the club, whether it's management, financial obligation, your strategy moving forward, and I'll say this with confidence that, as I've said before, if I was to talk about all the clubs in the NSL League right now, do we even have a strategy, you know, moving on? 5 years, 4 years, what is our plan? What are we looking at? Where do we see ourselves in, you know, in 5 years to come? Anybody coming to sponsor you must be able to answer that question. Your strategy moving forward, what are you going to do? What do you require? How are you going to recoup? I wouldn't say details now, but I'll tell you, in my discussion with our sponsor who is coming on board for Nairobi Steamer right now, the big question was, what is in it for me? And I have to prove beyond means to show, not just in a conversation, but in terms of a structural approach to show that it's going to work, you know? And that is what I'm saying the clubs must be able to demonstrate. And we demonstrate it in many ways. When you go to a match, say Nairobi Steamer and So United on the ground there in the league, in our interaction, in our how we play this game, how we carry ourselves through, has a reflection of whether somebody is going to pick us up or not. So I'm insisting that that should be opened up. The structure must be in a way that it will encompass what we want to see in the several years to come. That's my point. And I think we are not there yet. From where I sit as a chair of National Governing Council of NSL, we are not there yet. It's something I'm pushing. I've presented to the Federation my thoughts and my views, and we need support. Well, the way we see referees being trained, right now, I've just seen something on social media about referees having gone through a test right now. How about...
They went to training this week, I think.
Yes. So how about, what are we doing now in terms of that to the clubs, NSL clubs in particular? That is a very important key aspect.
And that's a federation to to champion that.
Yes.
Sunday Timothy has another concern. The National Super League did not have a clear promotion and relegation structure. Boardroom decisions took precedence. That has since changed. Oh, they're actually saying it's since changed, which I think is a... Child, why are you laughing?
But I would say, that, Carol, I would say, I've been in this league for long to tell you that promotion in this time has been better than it was before. That I can tell you.
That I agree.
Letters were being written from Federation, and they were written whether the game has been played or not, people would be promoted. This time around, you can predict. I have lost promotion.
It is the top two, it is the third playoff, and I think the bottom is it the bottom two?
Yes.
And there's a playoff as well, yes.
Okay, this last season was basically because of COVID and how we're going to treat it. And that's understood, nobody prepared for COVID. But in terms of the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, I can tell you, it is much better than when even me, I joined with Nick those many years to say we needed a change. Purposely because of that promotion, It was
I won't
wrong.
mention clubs by name who benefited,
wrong.
but
very,
you know
very
them.
wrong.
Frank Ouma says, how can we harness the community dividend to package community clubs to attract profits? And I guess what and I always say this, if you ask an English person which team they support, they will never say a Premier League club like we do. They will say the club in their hood. Kenya, I don't know whether we've cultivated the community around us to be behind us. I can see So United. I hope these people turn up and pay for your games, because there are many So United fans who I've discovered who have turned up today. Steamer, you probably face different challenges because you're a corporate club.
And I'll say, it's a challenge, and I'll tell you, one of the challenges which we must say here is that the issue of playing grounds for NSL is a challenge. It has got a direct relationship with the fans. Last season, we played our games in Naivasha, and I can tell you our games were fairly attended. Nairobi Steamer played in Naivasha, but there's a cost attached to it. So we have been forced, because of financial issues, to move our home ground back to Nairobi to save a little coins here. So it means we are losing the would-be fan base in Naivasha, which was there. Our games were always full, I can tell you. So the issue of pitches and availability of grounds is a direct relationship of sponsorship. I mean, in terms of fans coming to your games. Initially, years ago, we were playing at the Steamer Club, for instance, and we had gotten a fan base from the community around there. But again, challenges of whether that ground will be approved is another issue. So that is an element that must be done to work together with the federation, and also grounds available, then you can constitute your fan base. Physical coming.
That issue of infrastructure, I don't know, we'll talk until the cows come home.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
For me, it's the government who has failed us, but I change my goalposts. I no longer want those state-of-the-art stadium. I want a decent stadium in every...
And I'll tell you,
in every county.
I've seen, I personally, by the way, I'll say on this platform and say, even as we sponsor teams on individual capacity, I think we should engage sponsors not for the clubs, but for grounds. And I'm way looking at that, because the issue is, I've looked at the development at, say, Utalii now.
Yeah.
A ground that is not, far-fetched from, magnificent pitch, but I like the stand, I like the pitch. I don't think that would be so
In fact,
costly.
many live games are now being played
Exactly.
there. Premier
So,
League live
so
games.
Nairobi Steamer, and from what I'm thinking now, is to engage would-be partners. They can make their money out of it. Really, they can charge for 2-5 years and get their money back, and then the ground reverts to the club.
Steamer no longer sponsor you.
Well, they no longer sponsor us, but we are in engagement still. We still look at a possibility. But the dimension under which we're looking at sponsorship is, as I've tried to say, the value in it for the sponsor. So I'm negotiating for value back to the sponsor they can be able to put. And that's an answer.
And by sponsor, you mean Steamer?
Yes, I mean Steamer, yes.
Yeah, because I remember a few years ago, Sony were telling me, Sony Sugar, to help them get a sponsor. And I told them the first thing you need to do is change your name. Because there's no sponsor coming to sponsor a team called Sony Sugar unless it is Sony Sugar.
True.
You know? And I told them, you have to think about it, you know?
Yeah.
Because the sponsor will then want their name up there. Let me see a few comments here. Eugene Imbem Luceno. I like this man Chahilu. He's so honest with his doings. Let the club do the negotiations. Hata kama league haina value, teams ndio zinajua value. Okay. Christine Lona Mungai. Teams need to have a plan before participating in leagues. Teams should have dinners, fundraisers, economic activities such as matatus. FKF have done a remarkable job with the sponsors. Their frequent meetings with stakeholders is a positive step. Hey, you know me, I can tell when my friend Ken Okaka sent people to post here. Yes, FKF have brought in sponsors like Betika, but there's no point receiving that check and 3 months later, the clubs have not received theirs. That is my only issue, you know, with them. But dinners, fundraisers until when? That's my problem. That's no longer in your hands, you know. I think we need to get out of the culture of too much fundraising and actually have membership instead. I know like AFC Leopards, when I interviewed Shikanda about a year ago, he said he has a small network of dedicated members who will pay 2,000 shillings a month. And that was at the start. That was a year ago when he was just starting in office. But you'd rather go the membership way than the fundraising way, I think. I don't know. What do you think? Because you'll fundraise forever. That's a problem.
Sure. We also need to look at the long-term aspect
Yeah.
of it. For example, we have a very unique challenge. Initially, we had taken our games to Buhungu Stadium because the surface is magnificent, and we had an eye on that fan base. But we've realized that it is even more expensive because in terms of transport from Soi to Kakamega, and we've hit
How
to
far
the,
is Soi to Kakamega? Sorry, I don't know.
it's like 2 hours.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
far.
So we've hid to the calls of the fans that we take our home ground to Eldoret Showground because that is nearer, for example. Now the issue is this, Caro. Even as we talk about infrastructure and all that, the issue is what are the standards? What are the standards that now come out of this league at the end of the season? What is the benchmark before the start of the season and at the end of it? What are we saying in terms of a league? Is it worth when clubs don't have like programs like he's just mentioned? Is it worth now at the end of the season? We also need to look at that, but there's also lack of that element of understanding between the federation and the clubs, right? Even from the top at the KPL. The other day you saw there are issues with the TV rights and all that. If clubs were to be harnessed to work together with the federation and speak with one voice on all these issues, trust me, you will go back to the days when Nyayo Stadium, all these stadiums used to have a lot of fans. But even the fans themselves, they don't even trust our own game nowadays. People don't come to the pitches, as you had just highlighted. So for community clubs, it's even a bigger challenge. If people are not coming, you can't now say that the get entry will be like 100 shillings or 50 bob. People are no longer interested in the game. So how do we bring back that interest? That is very, very important. When we talk of, let's look at corporate sponsorship, let's bring them in. What is interesting? What is exciting about the Kenyan League? What is exciting about the NSL? Those are some of the questions that all of us just need to relook and think through them. Then the game will benefit across all the divides. Because the problems that are in the NSL are the same ones in Division 1, are the same ones you'll encounter in Division 2. So then it means we can't churn out more talent and all that. So those are some of our concerns. Like, so United, we had an under 19 side which we had to disband because we could not afford, because all your focus is on the NSL. But we had very talented boys at that stage. So we also need to relook at all these issues away from the wrangles, or not even wrangles, away from this misunderstanding that we are doing this just for the sake of the league. No, I think we need to move the conversation and say that our game has gone a notch down.
For the sake of the game.
Yeah.
And NSL is a key league.
Yeah. So that to me is very, very important.
A few comments here. George Kidi Kiprono says teams in Kangemi have community projects such as public toilets to finance their activities. They've started charging 10 shillings as well for fans getting into Kihumbuini Stadium for their league matches. Teams need to have a home ground where they can attract a loyal fan base who can pay them something to watch their games. I think we've also covered that.
Yeah.
So key.
Yeah.
So key to have community projects, so key to have a home ground, because even sponsors want a home ground. Kadif Owane Stevens says, a while back we had so much talent in football in South Rift. Our weekends was local football, Nakujaza Stadium, the days of Kingfisher FC, etc. It is good to see So United, a grassroots club, being organized and run well, unlike some clubs playing in the KPL. So United taking us back there, plus the neighbors Kona Rangers. Yo, Kenyan Premier League, tunafika soon. I think that's just a comment and encouragement to you that don't give up. Just don't give up. Felix Makachia says, it's so sad to see the state of Stima, a club that we invited and flew to the US for a Toyota tournament a few years ago. The company has no competitor. I'm so sad, my friend, Mr. Sapua.
Well, I would answer that. I would say that, by the way, it's true that our club was invited to come to Oyo, and which we did. And it is true, I'll speak for the sponsor here, because for many years, since the times of Apaka qualified into the Premier League, the Kenya Power has sponsored the team from then until recently when there were issues and the sponsorship was withdrawn. So I would give it credit to them in terms of sponsoring. In fact, I would tell you, last season, the Nairobi Stima even paid players more than some Premier League teams. So I'll give it to them, and it's not that there was any big value being taken back to the organization. So I would say it, and we are negotiating, as I've said. Yes, I could tell you that, and I'll say that factually. No. So I appreciate that.
I don't expect you to say anything against your sponsor, but I think every one of us, everyone watching, everyone sitting in this room, contribute to Kenya.
I agree.
Stima.
I
For
agree.
me, unfortunately, Stima has no excuse not to keep sponsoring a league if they want. And like businesses that suffered in 2020, I think we used more Stima than usual.
I would tell you. I would answer that, Caro, and I would tell you. In a different setup, I would explain and talk about it. Because the Kenya Power, the business is not to sponsor football, as a matter of fact.
Then get out of it. By the way, that is an issue I have with corporates. Stop making a football team a CSR project, especially if you're in the Premier League or the NSL. Don't make it a CSR project. If that is your purpose, get out. Give it its independence and sponsor it. Don't own it as a club in a professional league and then say I'm not in the business of football.
Let me tell you, Caro, Kenya Power doesn't own Nairobi Stima, as a matter of fact. I could tell you that. It only
owns just the naming
affords finances. Yes. And doesn't say we can't change the name. Not at all.
But it has employed over the years some of the members?
Initially for other teams, not Nairobi Stima specifically, but I'll tell you
Western
that
Stima,
Western Stima, yes, initially, yes. And so I agree that, yes, we do pay for power, I also pay for power, but I'll tell you that in terms of the period, they have done well, I'll tell you. Because I sit and I see what has gone through the club over the years. That I see.
Sawa, Abbas DJ, hey, Carol, yes, when you visit Nyeri, and it's something I've spoken with officials from both top teams, Riware United FC and Marafiki FC, the community has embraced and are contributing to the team's development, both financially and in attendance during these games being held here. By the way, these teams in Nyeri decided, and this is a DJ, he's just a very big fan of I think it's Ruare FC in Nyeri. They woke up and decided Nyeri football is going to be seen, it's going to be heard. This guy inboxes me every week with their flyers and tells me, post, you know, and I almost do it out of fear, you know, and their games are getting full. If you see the photos coming out from and they are second tier and third tier teams, coming out of Nyeri, they've decided as a community they're going to own these two teams, Marafiki and Rware FC. And they're going to make sure they support them until they get into the Premier League. So I applaud him. And if you see, when you visit Nyeri, not if, he's not giving me a choice. I have to visit at some point. But we need to begin to take that attitude, recruit people around us with influence. There's so many influential those French speakers who you can use to market your leagues. But guys, we have to wind up because we've done more than an hour. Do you have any parting shot? Yes, I think we've dealt with the issue begging Nick Mwendwa. I understand he's asked for your bank details.
Yes.
Hopefully you will get your 750,000 shillings very soon, and hopefully it's not going to start coming in bits. But I think we're also in agreement that it's nowhere near enough.
That's true.
And the clubs have work to do to bridge that financial gap. But do you have any parting shot as we wind up?
Yeah, I would say that we would let everybody play his role. Let the federation play its role, valid role, to do what they're supposed to do without any prompt, without any coercion. They just do their job. On our part, we'll also do our part. And I mean, as we invest in these teams, we'll create value out of it and present a league that is worthy to be accepted and accommodated in the football fraternity. That's what I would say. And as leaders, we need to have a vision for every club moving forward, a vision that will drive us to endeavor to reach that vision as we move forward. That's what I would say to all the clubs in NSL.
Shahilu?
Sure, Karo, for me, I'll just want to thank my players for their character. I mean, these are amazing boys. Going through what they are going through, and they're still hanging in there. It's something that you don't take away easily. So to them, I just want to tell them that they should expect something in the near future. We are working on seeing to it that we get these corporate sponsors on board and all that. And if there's any of them who's listening, So United is...
I want to support
yeah,
United.
Sure. So United is the next big thing in Kenyan football. If Karo, we got a corporate sponsor, we would rival my friend Sakwa here in terms of results, because
right now you're third or fourth in the league.
Yes, yes. So we would do that, but above all, we just want to have some sense of cohesion between the federation and all these other leagues. Let us still have these discussions.
Respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
Let us all work together, and also let us all understand that yes, as much as things are being done, we would also appreciate for them also to take cognizance of the fact that there are clubs which are struggling more than others, and it's only fair. Then to the guy who says that we should have thought about this league before we entered into, I think I've explained that. We had gone through COVID preparations with the team for the playoffs, and it's not my wish or anybody's wish to have these boys go through this, but we are pleading. And we are still saying that we will try and give them the best when the time comes.
I think it's just, I think I told you this before we even started the show, that I used to ask, because my inbox is full of people asking for kit and balls and shoes and cones and all these things and finances to honor games. And I used to say, why are you starting a team when you can't finance it? But I think you've answered that. It's the passion to want to do something. And you don't really have to have 100% to begin. You have to begin somewhere. A corporate partner is always going to ask, where did you begin? Where are your finances? What are your plans? So you have to start. And I'm sure for you, Chahilu, I can feel that you look at these young boys and their talent and say, I can't leave them. With my meager resources, let me do what I can. With my contacts and networks, let me see who I can reach out to. And I just want to say massive, massive respect for that. Massive respect for that.
Thank you.
My pockets are empty. Do you know, I'm sorry, because I find it so hard to say no when I know that there's a club in need. But it is beyond us. So we do need federation. We need like-minded people. We need big investors. Stop investing just in flats and land. Invest in football. You know, people but it's up to us to come to show them what are the returns if I do invest in football. You know, when I sell a player, and I don't know if we addressed that issue of transfer fees. You get transfer fees for players.
As I said, these are the big boys, and when they come around, they don't even want to look at how much you've invested in that player.
They make you an offer, and because of desperation, you accept
not even that. Not even that.
Or the player wants to leave.
Sometimes the players leave even without your consent. Because
you don't have contracts?
Because of the other... As I told you, you cannot offer a player a well tied down contract when in the real you know that this might not be possible.
But offer a forward contract. And I told one team here in Kawangware, they're called Soccer Sisters, and they said Ulinzi Stars, who are riding high right now in the Women's Premier League, they're either first or second with Thika Queens all the time, keep coming for their players, and they don't give the players contract because the chairman says, I don't want to deny that player an opportunity. And I guess that's what you're saying. You don't want to deny a player an opportunity in a bigger club. But I tell him, write a contract, even if you're giving that player for free. Because it shows that you had a hand in developing that player. The money may not come when you sell to Sofapaka. The money may come when Sofapaka sell to Simba. Or Simba sell to a team in Hong Kong. Or they sell to a Swedish club. You never know where. Ask Gosmule, who groomed Olunga here at... the money may not come from the first club they moved to. But it's good to have that piece of paper to acknowledge that I groomed this player. I have released him for free. But any further transaction of this player, or if he comes into whatever sponsorship, you get a cut. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. You guys are the legal minds.
You're right. I mean, for us, and I understand where Chahuli is coming from. At least for corporate clubs, initially as it were, we have been able to benefit from that. And we have been able to benefit from some sales of the players, development fee, and even some money for selling players for other clubs. That we have benefited, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll wind up here. We can talk until 5 p.m. if...
True.
I don't want my steamer bill to go high. I'll bring it to you because of these lights. But thank you guys so much. I think we've had a good discussion for me because I didn't want it to be all about complaining.
Yeah.
What money is yours, I hope it comes to you.
Yeah.
But let's also understand what people who are running our clubs are going through. Those of you who consider yourselves fans, let's not just complain. Ask ourselves, what can I do to contribute to this beautiful game? As we put pressure on those you-know-who's to do their part as well. But thank you guys for coming. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next week again on Radull Live. Oh, I forgot to give away the airtime. I'll give it away on my page after this. Guys, I have 1,000 bob of airtime to give. But thanks for watching. See you next week.